What a number. So I was originally thinking that we could start with a half-hour guided meditation, but then I looked at the number of questions in the box and I thought, don't know if I'm going to get through these in an hour. So would people like a guided meditation, or shall we just hop to the questions? I'm sort of democratic. How many people want to do a short guided meditation? Oh, okay. Okay, well, I guess we go with that first anyway. So many of you were sitting so nicely and quietly when I came in. I thought maybe you guys are already meditating nicely. So, nonetheless, we can just wait for people to settle down a little bit. Okay, and just last couple of people coming in. So, again, checking with your mind first how you feel. Just taking note of it. And then taking a little while to settle your posture, so you're nice and comfortable, sitting in a balanced way, with your back upright but relaxed, your chest, your heart space open and also relaxed. Your neck and shoulders, relaxed. Your head sitting balanced, either too far forward or back. And then your arms and your hands in a position that feels comfortable for you right now. And then your legs, making sure nothing is pressing in a way that's uncomfortable or will cause discomfort in a short time. You may not be 100% comfortable, but reasonably comfortable. And finally your face. Again, making sure all those little muscles holding all our emotions are relaxed and open. It helps to smile a little bit, never hurts. So being in the body, feeling it sitting here, right now, exactly as it is, just fine as it is. How wonderful it is to have this chance to be in this quiet, spacious room. And you feel the peace in the air. So imagine bringing that into your heart. Letting it seep in to all of you. If there are any thoughts arising in your mind, just notice that. You can imagine like there's soap bubbles, and just touch it lightly with a feather. See what happens. So thinking's not a problem. It's what the mind does. But we can choose not to continue the thought once it arises. And then see how that feels when we don't continue the thought. You might have to do that again and again with each little thought that comes up, or the flow of thought that comes up. With each time you interrupt it, you can notice some space in your mind. So feel that space. And allow it to expand. If the thoughts keep arising, you can just keep working with them patiently like that, gently, not a problem, something interesting to watch, interesting to learn about. But if your mind is feeling more settled and quiet, you might feel like the breath is coming to you. And if it does, see what it's like to be with the breath. What does it feel like to breathe? The movement of air, and tracing it where it goes. Like you're watching the waves going into the shore and out again. Soothing rhythm. Just riding your breath like you ride a wave. In and out. However your breath is. You don't have to make it long or short or control it in any way. You're just riding it. floating on it, enjoying it. Your mind wanders off into another thought. Just notice that. See if that's more pleasant, or if it's actually more pleasant to be with the breath. See what the mind wants to do. So just trusting that your mind knows the way to peace, and let it find its way. So let's sit together quietly for a little while longer. And just enjoy being here. Just coming to the end of the short sitting. Again, ask yourself how your mind feels. What's happened in the past 20 minutes, 30 minutes? Your thinking reduce or increase? And why? Did you have an attitude of openness or contentment with what you were experiencing? And how did that affect your mind? Are there moments of peace here and there, or long moments of peace? So whatever experience you had is good enough. So from that place of good enough, we can share any benefits from our practice with other people, other beings, by wishing for all beings to be well and happy, to be free from all suffering, to live with ease, and to be fully and truly liberated. So I'll ring the bell 3 times, and as you listen to it, you can gently come out of meditation. So, time for Q&A. And I feel this is my karmic inheritance, because when I come to retreats, I'm one of those people who not only writes a question, but if the teacher says only 1 question per person, I'll be like asking my roommate, hey, can I use your quota? Just so many questions I have, you know? So, here it is. Now I have to do the A part, the answer part. But I'm quite happy to do that, because I like questioning, you know? And it's fun also to see where the questions lead and what answers might come up. So we shall see. Oh, I like this question. Thank you very much, Venerable Muniswara, for your excellent talks. They are very practicable. Take this opportunity to thank Anusha for organizing the retreat, introducing one of the hidden jewels from the nuns' monastery. Oh my. I don't know if I'm a grateful person though, so I don't know if I'm the 5 jewels, but I am maybe, you know, a turquoise. But we would like to have more opportunities to listen to these inspiring nuns. Teruwan Saranai. Sadhu, sadhu. Thank you for your encouragement. And yeah, there are lots of hidden jewels at Dhammasara. We're not so hidden, actually. You know, we do come out every day for dana, and you can see us. So, yeah, it's wonderful that you offer this appreciation, and I really am very impressed with my fellow nuns. And so, yeah, but everything has its time, and it's also important to give, especially younger monastics, the chance to really deepen their practice, because and this is something that I appreciate about our abbot, Ajahn Hasapanya. She really doesn't pressure anybody to have to go out and teach. And she really gives you the space and the time to develop and grow, because it's one thing to teach from the level of intellectual understanding, and that takes some skill, but it doesn't have the depth of when people speak from their own experience, of their own practice, their own struggles, their own figuring out how to overcome, various things that might be difficult in their life or their practice. And that kind of understanding takes time to develop, and it takes the time to be anonymous, and just be a quiet nun who just goes back to your dwelling and develop in solitude. So there's a time for everything, a season for everything, and when people are ready, it's great if they have the opportunity. But if they aren't, then it's also nice to give people the time and space they need to grow. So hopefully, our community is growing, and it has now been, 1998 was when the monastery was established. 2009 was when higher ordination first happened. So it has been some time, and germination has been happening and continues to happen. So we'll see what happens in terms of more nuns giving talks. But we certainly appreciate your encouragement and your interest. So thank you for that. Okay. How do you sit with emotions without narrativizing? That's a cool word. Yeah, I get what you mean. Narrativizing them without being pulled away in thoughts and analysis about them. Yeah, that struggle I know well. Because, the mind, it's a storyteller. It is like better than Pulitzer Prize winning or Booker Prize winning. I mean, the mind is like the world's greatest storyteller. And it doesn't take a day off, man. It's like... It can storytell about anything. And it is not particularly interested in facts, These stories can be very far from the truth, and yet they're so compelling. And, they are very convincing, and we feel like they're a fact. But in fact, you are right, they are narrative. They are fictional narrative. And that's something that is helpful to know, because it's less compelling when you know that it's not fact. Even though it seems like it is, even though you're sure you've got it right, and you saw it with your own eyes, and this really did happen, it feels like it's fact. But I majored in history, in college, and I know even history is storytelling. It's storytelling that's loosely based on facts, and you try your best, somehow to sort of come up with something that you feel is somewhat truthful, but you can never really know what happened in the past. You can never really capture it exactly, even your own past, even your own memory of what happened. So the more we understand that, that these stories that the mind likes to tell, it's basically, I don't know what percent can be believed, it's a lot smaller percent than you think. I think, therefore it is true, is our general assumption. But actually the assumption would be, I think, therefore it's probably not true. And so when we see that's the case, it reduces the value we give to it. And when we reduce the value we give to it, they become less of a hook. They become less captivating, because it's like, it's like the, the used car salesman, it's like, I'm not buying into this entirely. I mean, the car looks very shiny in the picture and everything, but I have a feeling that it's probably not going to be running like a brand new car, no matter what you tell me. So this is the same thing, this person, they said this to me, and they really meant to hurt my feelings, and they purposefully, were really mean to me, and all this storytelling you tell yourself. And yeah, it would be really interesting to hear their side of the story, wouldn't it? That might balance it a little bit. But what's very interesting also, what's very useful, is when you see other people doing it. So if you've ever played agony aunt, if your friend comes and tells you something about the particular situation that's really upset them, and they're really worked up about it, and they just know that this person X did this horrible things to them on purpose. And if you were actually in the situation, it's like, wow, I can see it happening now. Like you have a different perspective on the situation, but you can see how this person totally really sees it that way, like genuinely. Like it's not that they're making it up or they're like dramatizing. They think, they honestly feel like it's real. It's really how they remember it is how it happened. And if you were there in the same situation and you have a different perspective, you can see more clearly how this whole storytelling happens. It's harder to see with yourself. So if you can see it happen with someone else, that nonetheless can make you, by inference, become less inclined to believe your storytelling. So that's how it can help. But also that same thing I said this morning about just remembering the general principle of drop the story, be in the body. Like even without having to know that, oh, the story is ridiculous, but just being able to develop that skill of like, just forget the story, just switch your attention to a different object, which is your body. And keep doing that again and again until the momentum of the story starts to like reduce naturally. It's like if you've got a high-speed train going, but the conductor starts pulling the brakes a little bit, and then it screeches a little bit, but it keeps going, then a little bit again, and you keep interrupting the flow and the momentum of your storytelling, your thoughts, it naturally does start to subside in its energy. And then it is easier to resist being pulled in. It's when it's going at high speed that is really hard to, you're on the train, it's off, and you can't get off. And then it's hard to stop. But when you can catch it earlier, when the train is just beginning to leave the station, and you're just beginning to, once upon a time, it's just starting, then it's easier for it to be like, okay, let's just drop it, be in the body, drop it, be in the body, and keep doing that. And if you catch it earlier, it's easier to remain in the body and just forget the story. And then sometimes the whole drama, the emotions that come with the story, they dissolve when you don't feed them with more storytelling. That's the important thing to remember, that the storytelling feeds the emotions. So the more storytelling you do, that's stronger. And if it's a negative emotion, that means the worse you're going to feel. So that's another motivation to stop the storytelling. It's like, I want to stop feeling this crappy. So, if you want to slow down the emotion, you slow down the thoughts, you starve the thoughts, and you starve the emotion. So that's one way to work with them. So you've tried. Okay. Moving colors and lights in meditation. Seeing brilliant flashes of dazzling color so intense it's vibrating, pulsating vision. How can you control them when you are in a deeper state of concentration? Well, I guess the thing is, why do you want to control them? That seems to be like leaps out. Red flag is the word control. With any stage you're on meditation. I mean, this whole impulse to try to control it, control your thoughts, control your breath, control whatever lights you might see, that's always going to disturb the meditation because it's introducing this interference. Like I was talking about earlier today, that whenever we interfere with the process, we put an obstacle in the mind's natural ability to progress in meditation. The mind naturally will become calmer, more still, and whatever lights might happen, they might not happen, whatever, but which should be a natural process. So if it's going naturally and you start seeing these lights, but then you start to try to control it, that's just going to put a spanner in the works, So that's something that, like, I actually, wouldn't say that I'm a meditation master that can really speak to all these experiences. You might want to consult Ajahn Brahm about it if you have the time or the chance. But I know from my own experience with any stage of meditation that the impulse to control is taking you in the wrong direction. And the more you can let go of that impulse to control and just be the backseat passenger and let the mind be the driver and let the mind do its thing, then you're going in the right direction. So control, that's the major thing you got to control. Just kidding, don't control the control. That's just going to make it worse. But yeah, control is a thing to let go of. So that's key for every part, any kind of meditation. Is physical discomfort and pain just something you need to learn to live with in order to sit for long periods? It's like degrees of it. So there are certain things you can do to make your body more flexible, like all that great yoga you've been doing in the morning. Yeah, that can help to just acquaint the body with positions that you might not be used to. So especially sitting on the floor. I mean, most of you probably didn't grow up sitting on the floor. Neither did I, frankly, but in Thailand, in previous generations, they did. So it was like no problem for them to sit on the floor. And that's just what their body grew up doing. But if you haven't, then your muscles and your tendons and all of that, they're not really familiar with that position. So then that will cause pain. So the thing you can do exercises to increase the flexibility of your hips and your knees and that kind of thing. So then that's a physical way to help deal with this issue. But also, chairs are not evil. We can sit on chairs, and there are plenty here. And that is no impediment to progress in meditation. Apparently, there are statues of the Buddha where he's depicted sitting on some kind of seat like a chair. So even the Buddha sat on a chair, maybe he meditated on a chair sometimes, and if the Buddha could do it, then heck, certainly we can. So yeah, that's the other thing, if you find sitting on the floor really uncomfortable, then sit on a chair and see if that's any better. And there's a whole art of getting the chair comfortable, especially if you've been on a 9-day retreat. It's really, it's really interesting to see people's cushion strategies change over time because the chair is not comfortable forever. You maybe the first day, like this cushion, and the next day you see there's like maybe two. Me too, I start to add cushions in different places as the days go by. And so, your body's changing too, so you have to be sensitive to what your body needs, and that's part of developing mindfulness and developing awareness. So yeah, work with your body, see what works for it, and there's no shame in cushions either. It's like we need a level of comfort before we can progress in meditation, because if the body's too uncomfortable, the mind is just too tense, and then it's just such a struggle. And that's like, what's the point of that? Just to prove that you're like some hardcore meditator who can just sit on the bare floor or whatever. So what? You can sit on the bare floor and your mind never gets peaceful. So what? You got some cushions, your mind gets peaceful. Well, yeah, why not? Yeah, I'm known for using cushions in the monastery, and it's like, but I can sit longer that way, and so I feel like it's worth it. So yeah, that's something you can do. So it's not just something you need to learn to live with and grit your teeth through, It's like you learn how to get a modicum, a reasonable amount of comfort, so your mind can become more still. And when the mind becomes more still, then actually the tranquility of the body that is deeper can arise. And when you have that deeper kind of tranquility of the body, then you can sit effortlessly for longer periods, not because you're forcing yourself to, but because the mind has left, it's not so aware of the body, it's not so concerned with the body, so the awareness of the body has faded to the background. And then the body is really naturally still. You don't have to hold it. It's the real thing when it takes no effort to hold your body still, and you can sit for an hour, 2 hours, and you come out of it and you're like, hey, my body doesn't feel like achy, or it feels like it was happy to be in that position for those long periods. And then that's how you can sit for longer periods, when it's a natural tranquility that comes from the tranquility of the mind. So that's how you can work with that one. What do you enjoy most about being a nun? Not having to iron clothes. I'm serious, and also not cooking. Yeah, I'm serious about that one too. So there's those fringe benefits. But what do I really enjoy most about being a nun? I don't know. I just love it. You just. I guess that's what they mean when people talk about calling or vocation or something. You just love it. Even when it's there are times when it can be challenging or hard, or just lots of things you might not be used to, or living with lots of people you don't even know really, there's aspects of it that aren't easy, but you still love it. You love it. There's something about it. You just love the life of a monastic. It's the beauty of the simplicity of the lifestyle, and you love how you can be like completely devoted to the Dhamma. Like you can be. That's like all you're thinking about, Okay, occasionally, when you do the windows, like I said, you read the newspaper, and you might, you read some interesting article about the French Open. I used to love watching tennis. I do miss that, but in general, you're like totally devoted to the Dhamma, and I think it's like I was here for the 9-day retreat, and I passed my USB to Christina to see, can you please put the talks on it. And I didn't have to think twice, I didn't have to be like, oh my God, let me check what's on that USB. Like, I want to make sure it's like nothing embarrassing. And like all that's on that USB is like, like Dhamma talks and like, PDFs about, some Dhamma article or, I don't know, like, okay, maybe some like boring logistical stuff. But like, just mainly your whole life is all about the Dhamma. And it's like a constant learning. It's like a job that you never get bored of, Like I had jobs before I became a nun, and there was a certain amount of time when you started to when you learn how to do the job, and then it wasn't new anymore, and you got bored of it, But like, gosh, working with the mind, it takes a while to like figure it out, and it's gonna take a while to master it. So there's constant learning that's going on. So you can't get bored. Like even with boredom, you can learn about boredom. So that's another thing I love about being a nun, is that you're constantly learning. It's like I said about this retreat, think about it as a learning experience. And that's not just the retreat, it's like your whole spiritual life. It's like constantly teaching you. And the more you're in the present moment, that's what Ajahn Chah said. He said, if you can ground the mind in the present moment, everything can teach you. And that's so true. And so even learning how to ground yourself in the present moment is a whole big learning. But as you do that, other things start to teach you. Life starts to teach you. Nature starts to teach you. People start to teach you. You start to teach you. And then it's just so rich in learning. So that's maybe the most genuine answer might be also that I feel like I'm always learning, and I'm always happy to learn. Even when it's painful, even when you have some hard knocks to teach you some tough lessons, you're still at some level happy to learn, happy that you're learning that, And so that's a real great source of sustainable happiness. And what is the hardest part of being a nun for you? Well, like I said, I can't watch the French Open anymore. I wonder if Nadal is still is he still a top player? Because like when I ordained, he was like a top player. So if he still is, that's amazing. He's still up there. Yeah, yay Nadal. But yeah, so other little things like that, yeah, or like, okay, like secretly, I really liked to dance when I was like, a layperson, and to sing, like I said. So I have to say it is hard to not secretly sing sometimes. So I like the cottages here, right? How the bathrooms are next to each other. And like on one 9-day retreat, when I get to a certain part in the retreat and you feel lots of joy, my Filipino-ness, you want to express it in song. And like at the end of the retreat, the nun who was like in the room next to me was like, were you singing in the shower? And I'm like, what? Kind of like, yeah. So I admit that's one of the hardest things about being a nun is not singing ever. But also it is like a lot of not being able to do what you want to do when you want to do it, right? That's what you think is freedom. But it is still hard when you can't do it, even when you know that's not the true freedom. There's just so many things you can't do because of your rules, or because of just the monastery is made up of a lot of people. So, you have to consider many things before you can do what you really want to do, or, and so that's, in a way that's hard, but in a way it's also not, because it's helping you learn how to let go. It's like when your whole lifestyle is like forcing you to have to let go in so many ways, then you can't help but like actually learn how to let go more. And so it's hard, but it makes it easier for things not to be hard, you know? Like it's that kind of hard. So that's maybe, you know, a hard thing, but not truly hard. Yeah, maybe that's why I love it, because I don't find it true. I mean, it's hard, but you know it's good for you, you know, and you know it's actually freeing you. And it really does. You can see the fruit of that. So that's not really hard then. But, you know, the hardest thing really is working with your own mind, whether you're a monastic or not. That's the hardest thing is, yeah, really just, and when you don't have those distractions, you're working with the mind more in your face, you know? And that, yeah, it's kind of delicate work. And so it's not easy always, but it is always very rewarding. So again, it's one of those things where it's hard, but ultimately in the bigger picture, not hard, because you know it's for your welfare, you know? It's always easy to do things that are hard, and you know it's ultimately helping you and helping other people. So then that's how I would answer that. Thank you, I really enjoyed your talks. Thank you, I really enjoyed you listening to them. Okay. Now, what is the best way to deal with bullies and not letting them intrude? What? Intrude? Invade? Can't quite read it. Does this mean invade? Invade to your meditation, I think. Or intrude, one or the other, but I guess they mean similar things. What do you mean by bullies, I guess? Do you mean your own mind states are bullying you? Like your restlessness is bullying you. Your thoughts are bullying you. Yeah, it can feel that way sometimes. It can. It can feel like these are kind of like very strong forces in your mind. And that you kind of have to stand your ground. But it's like civil disobedience. It's like Gandhi or something, you know. It's like peaceful resistance. So when these, you know, bullies of our mind, when our you know, distressing emotions, or what in Buddhist language are defilements, what they're called, you know, greed, hatred, delusion, basically. These things, when they come and bully your mind, you know, the best way is to meet them with peace, with a sense of, okay, you know, and if better than peace, even with kindness, the sense of, okay, thank you for coming, thank you for visiting, you know, as if they were a guest paying you a visit, an honored guest or something. Maybe not honor, that might be a stretch, but you know, but still something you receive with a spirit of welcome. And you know, oh gosh, I'm telling you all about my old TV habits. But do you guys know about Miss Universe? It's this beauty pageant. Yeah, but anyway, they had this interview part, and I remember one year, to this day I remember this, I must have really liked her answer. But Miss India, she said when the interview about like, you know, how do you deal with people who are, you know, gonna kind of like, yeah, like bully you or something, and it's like, you know, and she said something to the effect of like, if you don't bend over, no one can step on you, you know? Like if you stand up straight and keep your dignity, hold your ground, no one can bully you. They might physically bully you, maybe, but mentally, no one can bully you if you actually are open to them. If you stand up upright and open and meet them with a sense of friendliness or kindness, you know, no one can bully you. What bullies you maybe is your own self. So your own mind, you know, if you let it stand its ground and let it meet these disturbing emotions with dignity, with a firmness, but a softness and a kindness, you won't be bullied, and it won't feel like you're being bullied. That's the important thing, because being bullied is about our own perception of feeling like we're bullied. So as long as you don't allow yourself to feel bullied, you won't be bullied. So that person won't be an enemy if you're a friend to them. So the same with our mind states. They won't be a bully if we are a friend to them. So that's really, the best defense is offense? No, the best defense is friendliness and kindness and openness. So try doing that. I sometimes see moving, spinning colors, lights when I meditate deeply. First it was purple, then green. Sometimes it changes depending on the focus of my meditation. Breath equals purple, warmth or loving kindness equals green. Is this common? If so, what does it mean? Well, again, I don't consider myself an expert on these things, but in general, what I've learned from my teachers is that the colors of these things, it's just a matter of perception. So it doesn't really matter. It makes sense that maybe, using breath meditation, it works with your mind in a different way than when you do loving kindness meditation. Loving kindness meditation tends to bring up more joy first and then a sense of peace, whereas breath meditation brings up more peace first, then joy, and maybe that affects the colors perhaps, but it doesn't really matter, And what does it mean? Purple means, purple is like the color of that Grimace, the guy in McDonald's. I don't know what purple means. Purple, the color purple, Alice Walker. I don't know, I'm just associating. I don't know what purple really means, and I don't think it really matters. The idea, though, is that it's beautiful to you. It's a beautiful purple, or it's a beautiful green, and your mind is like mesmerized, and it just finds so much joy in that beautiful color. And when your mind can, find it so beautiful that it's just watching sort of like motionless, because when you're like stunned, speechless, you can be stunned, motionless, and your mind is so mesmerized that it doesn't move anymore, then that thing that you see also won't move, because it's just a reflection of your mind. And so when your mind is still, that color or that light that's moving or spinning will also settle down and become still. But if it's still moving and spinning, it means your mind is still moving and spinning. So maybe you're excited by these like cool, beautiful lights. So yeah, the thing is, the mind naturally will become still when you stop interfering. So it means you must be doing something or interfering in some subtle way that there is movement in the lights. So see if you can just focus on the beauty more so that your mind is so mesmerized it becomes motionless, and then see what happens. But yay, cool for you that you see lights. But if you don't see lights, don't feel bad. Lights are just lights, traffic lights are lights too, they change, you can watch those. Anyway. Okay, are nuns female only and monks male only? Or can a female become a monk? I gotta ask Venerable Mentaji, you got any females at Bodhinyana? I don't know, but apparently in the Vinaya, this is the monastic discipline, there are some weird stories in there of people who did change their gender, and and then they went to ask the Buddha, okay, so this person who was used to be a man and was ordained as a monk has now suddenly become a female. So where does this person belong? Do they go to the nun sangha now? Do they go to the bhikkhuni sangha now? And apparently, once you become a female, you'd go to the bhikkhuni sangha. So apparently, if this ever happens, where male can become a female, then yeah. But yeah, it's definitely like toilets. It's like one or the other. Yeah. If you're a girl, you go to the one with the ladies sign. If you're a gent, you go to the one with the gent sign. So nuns are female only, monks are male only. But it's only a matter of semantics, because for the longest time in Theravada Buddhism, we didn't have fully ordained nuns, what's called a bhikkhuni in Pali. And so all these other kinds of pseudo-nuns that came into existence in various countries like Thailand, Cambodia, Burma, Sri Lanka, to allow some opportunity for women to lead some form of dedicated spiritual life that was like kind of nuns, but not officially nuns. That's when the language becomes confusing, because it's like, are they nuns? Or does nun only refer to fully ordained nun, like bhikkhunis? Or someone like a machi or a saili, is that a nun? And so that's when it becomes confusing. And when I used to be a journalist for the Bangkok Post, in Thailand, where it's an English language newspaper, but in a Thai culture, it's like, how do you translate the word bhikkhuni? And there were some people who called them female monks, because bhikkhu traditionally in Thailand meant male monk. And so once you start having female fully ordained people, it's like, you can't call them a nun because people think that includes machis. So we call them female monks, and there were articles, that were like, yes, when you're referring to bhikkhunis as female monks. So I can see that's how a female can become a monk in the world of semantics. But yes, in our ordination procedure, that's one of the questions. You ask, like, are you a man? for the bhikkhus, and it's like, obviously, it's like, yes, then okay, then right, you belong here. So they actually check at your ordination if you are the right gender. So you see, the Buddha was smart. It's like foolproof. Before you can actually gain entry into the Sangha, there is a check of your chromosomes. So, wonderful. So, but today we've switched sides, because normally the nuns sit on that side at Jhana Grove. And usually it's like Ajahn Brahm or somebody teaching, so it's always the monk teaching. So, but today I'm like, whoa, it's like Freaky Friday. I'm sitting on the monk side, and like Metaji's over there in the nun side. So you see, these things, they are fluid. But he's still male, I'm still female. That has not changed. Now, the 8 limbs to enlightenment includes asana. Do you practice yoga, physical movement to achieve samadhi? Oh, is that like a yoga text, 8 limbs to enlightenment? It must be a yoga thing if it includes asana. So, I am like allergic to exercise. And I've been trying for my whole life to like try to do some at least, and it helped a lot in school when you had like mandatory physical education class. But as soon as I left school, it was like, no more mandatory physical education class. So there are some nuns who practice yoga at the monastery, and sometimes there were times when there was one who led a qigong class, and when there's a leader, I am more inclined to join, because then I don't have to remember anything. But when there isn't, then I'm like, okay, well, no. So I personally do not practice much physical movement to achieve samadhi, but I do walking meditation. And I can see how theoretically, not speaking from much personal experience, but I can see how yoga with the whole mindful of the movements as you move from pose to pose, mindful of the breath, although it's a bit different from breath meditation the way we practice in Buddhism, in the sense that there is some control of the prana, there's some kind of choreographing of the breath as opposed to just letting it naturally do its thing and you just be with it. But I can see how that helps to slow the mind down and take it out of the thinking world. So it can definitely be a complement to meditation practice, and it can be a limb in that sense, but I don't know if it's a requirement for enlightenment, because boy, that means I'm disqualified. I hope it's not a requirement. And then lots of forest masters in Thailand, they didn't practice no yoga. So I think it's totally okay not to practice yoga, but it can help, like I say, with your posture and being able to hold, positions sitting in meditation. Okay, also to reach pure bliss, do you think you can have a family job and not be 100% attached to people, desires, outcomes? Well, and in the time of the Buddha, there were all sorts of lay people who held jobs and had families who attained to at least the early stages of enlightenment. So it is possible. I don't know what you mean by pure bliss, though. If you mean by pure enlightenment, then the full shebang, I think, unfortunately, is if you manage to do it when you're a lay person, then very soon after you have to ordain as a monastic, because you can't bear to live as a lay person anymore. So you lose the will to live as a lay person. So but this not being 100% attached to people, desires, outcomes, that's very highfalutin stuff, actually, to be able to be not be 100% attached. It's I see what you mean. It's not that you have to be 100% non-attached, but that you're not 100% attached. Yeah, it's possible. It is possible. But realistically, I have to say, it's like a minority of people who can do that. You have to be a lay person with really sort of highly developed spiritual qualities or very advanced practice to be able to be involved with family and not have some attachment to your family members and some desires and, you know, some outcomes you want from them or from your job. It's like, it's just so pregnant with the possibility of attachment, metaphorically and I think literally, you know, when you have family. And so it's something that it is possible, but it is, you know, more rare. And it for most people, it does make things more difficult because it's very consuming to have a family. It takes a lot of your time, a lot of your energy, a lot of your thought world, you know, is so full of your responsibilities and your, you know, how to take care of your family members, that it doesn't leave you as much space. And like I said, it is really hard to not get attached to family members. And if you already have them, to be able to have some mental distance or emotional distance. So I would say it's possible, but not easy. But don't lose entire hope. It is possible. Okay. What does your name mean, and how did you get it? Who assigns the name, and are they always unique? Hey, nothing is ever unique. You try to Google something, you know, like when I tried to get my Gmail address, somebody else already had munisara@gmail.com, and I think I don't know if it's a man or a woman, but anyway, somebody already had it. So I had to make munisara.b, you know, .b, just to be unique. But how did I come up with it? Well, first of all, what does it mean? I'm always a little bit embarrassed to say because it almost sounds like a boast. But let me say the name is aspirational, only aspirational. Munisara, muni in Pali means sage. Isara means Lord or the great one, the one big in that thing. So Munisara means Lord of the sages. You know, I feel like I need to have like Excalibur, like some kind of sword. You know, I'm Lord of the sages. And if I'm a woman, I feel like actually I'm Lady of the sages, but somehow lady sounds a bit more wussy. So I'm Lord of the sages. And yeah, that's an epithet for the Buddha, actually. So I mean, talk about highfalutin, you know, like what was I thinking? But actually, you know, it came about because I like the word Isara in Thai. Isara means freedom. And as a kid, I used to like run around the house saying this, you know, at the top of my lungs, Isara Seri. It's like, it means freedom. And I just love this word, you know, and I was like, wow. When I was going to take the Kuni origin, I thought, what if I use Isara Seri as my name? And so I consulted Ajahn Brahm because I wasn't, you know, I hadn't started learning Pali then. I'm like, is that a Pali word? Is that just a Thai word? Is that a legitimate name, you know? And he was saying, oh, yeah, well, I guess in Pali it doesn't actually, Isra actually also has a meaning of free, but not quite in the same way. It's more used as Lord or the big one or the great one and something. So it didn't quite work in Pali. So then I felt, oh, then it's not quite, like I like to do things proper. So it didn't seem quite proper to use a sort of a word out of context. And so he was like, oh, and so I was like, okay, fine, can you suggest me a name then? And you know, you think he's going to say yes, right? And you're like, oh, what an honor, Ajahn Brahm gave me my name or whatever. But he was like, no. And I was like, what? he's like, no, ask your preceptor. So I guess he was trying to honor, you know, the nuns and the nun's preceptor, and so to give her that honor. And so I was like, okay. But I guess I was influenced by, you know, he sort of said as just an aside or something like, yeah, some people have these really like highfalutin names. Like, you know, I had this friend Munindo, you know, it's like Munindo is also like sage, like, you know, this sort of big sage or whatever. And so it must have seeped into my mind somehow without me realizing. So when I did dutifully trot along to my bhikkhuni preceptor and my, you know, and her assistant, someone who does the ordination procedure called the Kamavachacharini, you know what they did? She was like, oh, I have my laptop with me. I can Google my laptop. You want the word Isra in it? Let's see what turns up. I have all the suttas in my laptop. And so she used Google, and she Googled Isra. And what came up was Munisara. So who assigns the name? Google assigns the name. Yeah. Even though I didn't get my Gmail account, you know, but I got my name from Google search. So that's what came up. And I remember that word Munisara from one of these chants that we do in Thailand, also in Sri Lanka, the Chinabanjara chant, and that's like, there's a word in there where it talks about, I guess it's an epithet for the Buddha, so it mentions Munisara. And I remember chanting this a lot when my mother was ill. And so I remembered that word, and so I was like, okay, yeah, I kind of like this name. It's like Lord of the Sages, kind of like grand and aspirational, and even though I'm not there yet, it's something, like, shoot for the stars kind of thing, right? Shoot for the stars, and you might get the moon. And so it was inspiring to have an aspirational name that was kind of like, it's got some strength to it, some power to it. And so I was quite happy with the name, actually. And yeah, and it also included my old lay name too. My previous name, my lay name was Nisara. So it isn't that far. There was a part of me that really, I guess, it's because my mother gave me that name, Nisara. And so I kind of wanted to somehow honor that still. And so in this way, I could have it as part of my ordination, my fully ordained name. And also in Thailand, there's the tradition of calling monks by their lay name plus their Pali name when it's official. Like Ajahn Chah. Chah is his lay name, and his Pali name is Supato. So his official name is like Prat, and then you would say Prat Chah Supato or something. But I was like, I always wanted to have a rhyming name like Dr. Seuss, So it's like Nisara Munisara. I'm Nisara Munisara. Like I'm a Oompa Loompa, like kind of fun. So then that was why I was like, yes, I like this name. Thank you, Google. P.S. I've thoroughly enjoyed your talks. Thank you very much. Yeah, well, I'm glad you enjoyed them. I kind of enjoyed giving them, so works for both of us. Okay. Dear Venerable, thank you for sharing your insights on the Buddhist teachings with mirth and friendly enthusiasm. Cough, cough. Okay, let me pause on that one because it gets a bit graphic after that. But yes, mirth and friendly enthusiasm. I'm glad to provide that because that was one of my goals, and apparently one of my major goals in life. When I was asked at my admissions interview to Harvard, what is your goal in life? I hadn't planned it, I hadn't had some impressive answer to give, like, oh, I want to cure cancer, cure AIDS, become president of the world. But what came out, the answer that naturally came out was spiritual growth and to be mildly entertaining to family and friends. So I am very glad that I fulfilled the mildly entertaining to family and friends. You are my family and friends in a way. So thank you. Thank you for being, considering it mirth. Now, the next question, is there a reason that the genitals are left out of body scans? This often happens, and I wonder why this important part of our human experience does not receive equal attention. Right, because we're nuns, right? It's like totally X-rated to go over there and talk about that stuff, so it doesn't seem proper. But also, what you send your mind to, is where your attention goes. So I can only imagine that if your attention goes there, all sorts of thoughts may break loose. So, like, why risk it, right? I mean, it's so hard to get peaceful already with your normal thinking, let alone that kind of thinking. So why go there? The body scan is supposed to relax your mind. So let's keep with the spirit of it. So I don't think you have to be like, prudish, but you also have to be smart about how your mind works and not do things that are going to inflame more troublesome states of mind. And you don't have to be so literal that, body scan means you have to go through every square inch in excruciating detail. Yeah, it would be a really boring guided meditation if I did that, right? Move to the next millimeter of your skin, So yeah, we don't have to be completely complete. Just do, roughly what is helpful to get you in touch with your body and relax your body and therefore relax your mind. So that's why it happens. And yeah, it's an important part of our human experience, but not quite as important as you think. It's not really as, eunuchs live, right? Like in imperial China, they had eunuchs and they lived just fine without their genitals. So, it's possible. They did body scans, they didn't do genitals. Okay,
Do you finish all the food offered in your bowl? Oh, busted. Busted. You aim to, you try to, but especially at Jhana group and somebody else is putting the food in your bowl and they're so eager to do it, you know, and then also people feel sad if you don't take their food. Like today, because like I can't actually take spicy food, you know, it just causes me stomach upset. So there was one dish where I didn't make the like kind of like expression that I was that particularly interested in that dish, you know. So then the person didn't put any into my bowl. And then, because I saw it had like chili in it, so I thought, oh, it's probably spicy. But then they came to my cottage, you know, like the two of them, the lady serving it and the lady who made it. And the lady serving it thought it was some fault of hers that she somehow wasn't quick enough to put in my bowl or something, that she had somehow made some mistake that made the offering not make it into my bowl. And then she felt bad for the lady who cooked it. So both of them came and offered me a small portion of this thing to be like, yeah, there was a bit of a snafu and, you know, I felt really bad. So here, please, you know, receive this offering. And so, geez, if someone, you know, both of them came running up to your cottage and then, you know, so I said, okay, I'll have some. Like I promised her I would have some. So even though it was a bit spicy, I did literally have some because I said I would, but I couldn't have it all, you know, that really would have upset my stomach. So yeah, so haha, I didn't finish that all. And I didn't finish, you know, the extra spring roll, and I didn't finish, like sometimes it's just too much that people give, more than you, even in your, you know, with all your best intentions, you're trying to eat as much as you can, but you can't torture yourself either, because I've done that before. I've eaten out of not wanting to waste food, eaten out of wanting to hurt people's feelings, and man, I had a lot of indigestion and very bad meditation. Well, no meditation is bad, but then you think, is that really the best merit for this person, where you eat their food, but it interrupts your practice? Like, is that really the best merit? And so then I rethought this whole thing and thought, well, maybe I don't have to finish everything in my bowl every day, you know? I mean, I'm gonna try not to put in, you know, of course you get it wrong sometimes. Sometimes you're, you know, there's potato chips. You like them. And sometimes you put more of that in so you don't eat the nutritious stuff. And so sometimes the nutritious stuff is left over. But, you know, it happens. But the aim is to try to take only as much as you need and finish what you take. But it's really hard to get that totally right. So I think it's also not right to force yourself out of some sort of like puritanical idea that I have to finish everything on my plate, because that's what mom and dad told me growing up. And then you actually just cause more suffering for yourself. I mean, is that really the wisest thing to do? So this is something constantly working on, because this is actually one of the most difficult spiritual practices is, you know, knowing moderation in eating, knowing what's just the right amount to eat. So I'm constantly working on it. And yes, no, not everything gets eaten every day. But some days I do, and boy, I feel good on those days. Got it right. Yeah. Okay. Now, what do you think about Vipassana meditation? I don't really think about it. I guess you're supposed to do it, right? But yeah, I don't know. Vipassana means, V means special, Passana means to see. So it's a special kind of seeing, where you're seeing reality as it is. No one's going to argue with that. That is a good thing, right? Seeing reality as it is. But what is often called Vipassana meditation, you know, in Buddhist circles these days, it's not actually what Vipassana really is, but it's practices that support Vipassana. Vipassana is like the real deal, where you really are seeing clearly things as they are, with no hindrances in the mind, absolute clarity, powerful mindfulness, seeing things as they are. That's Vipassana in action when it actually happens. And then you're able to see the nature of reality, see the impermanence and the unsatisfactory nature and the non-self nature. Don't ask me what that means if you don't know. Haha, that's a whole other topic. But this idea that that's what Vipassana really is. And it's not actually the practices that lead towards that. It's loosely used now in Buddhist lingo to refer to the practices, you know, and now even schools of meditation are called Vipassana, you know, Vipassana retreat or something. But just because you call the thing a Vipassana retreat doesn't mean everybody there is going to actually experience real Vipassana. because that comes with a certain development of your mind that includes the calming aspect. These are the two aspects of what's, roughly speaking, what meditation is about or includes is the Samatha, the calming, and the Vipassana, the seeing or the wisdom. So both of them come together. And I like to be able to triple quote people. So I'm going to quote Ajahn Brahm, quoting Ajahn Chah, saying that Vipassana and Samatha are like two sides of the hand. You think you're doing this, but this is always there. Or you think you're doing this, but this is always there. So if you're doing what you call Vipassana meditation, ha ha ha, little do you know, or maybe you do know, it's coming with Samatha. Because you can't have the wisdom without the calm. And if you think you're doing just Samatha meditation, you can't help but get wiser. Sorry, you just want to be calm and stupid. It's not going to happen. When you're calm, you're going to see things, and they're going to make you wiser. And so it's going to come together. So there's not much point in really, I really used to get a bit frustrated with hearing when people niggle about it. It's like, oh, you're just doing samatha. Oh, that kind of walking meditation is just samatha. It's not vipassana. You have to do something else to get vipassana. You have to whatever you have to do. I don't want to get into details because it's denigrating. But it's you have to do something else. And then it's so frustrating because especially if you're just new and you're trying to figure it out, it makes it so confusing, man. You're like, oh, I'm doing my walking meditation, but is it samatha or is it vipassana yet? And then you trip over yourself because you can't. How am I supposed to put my foot down so it's vipassana, not just this sort of second-rate samatha or something, So I really liked when I heard Ajahn Chah's teaching that it's comes together, same thing, one package, and you don't have to just sort of drive yourself nuts trying to figure out which it is you're doing at any one time, and it's just these two aspects of the meditation. And the emphasis can shift depending on what stage of meditation you're at, but they're always both present. So that's my answer. And maybe I should start going faster because yawns are happening at 8:51, it is looking like. So, but I also don't like to shaft some people, so I'll just keep going in a reasonable pace, and if I really can't get through them, maybe I'll just do some of it tomorrow morning. Hey, I like this question. That's a really easy one. This is profound. And my answer is the same. Oh, this will go really fast if they're all like this. Okay. But no, they're not all like this. Okay. Is there a perfect time for meditation? Oh, you're just what the comedian loves. Someone who feeds you the line that gets to the punchline. So, yes, there is a perfect time for meditation. You know what that time is? Oh my God, it's so obvious. Exactly. Right, now. Now is the perfect time for meditation. And that's the only time you can ever really do meditation, frankly. So now, yes. And the worst time, and again, I'm just totally ripping off Ajahn Brahm's material. But the worst time is later. Let me just get this out of the way first. When I'm retired, I'll meditate. And I have the grandkids, are go to school or whatever, then I'll meditate. Oh my Lord. Now in the age of COVID, I do actually kind of fear that every time, like I say, I email only very irregularly. And when I do, it's maybe been a long time since I've been in touch with the person. And now when I email acquaintances or friends from New York and they don't respond in a number of weeks, I'm like, oh my God, I hope they didn't die of COVID. Because how would I ever know if they did? So yeah, later is a really bad idea because you don't know how much later you've got. And if later is ever going to come. So if tomorrow comes, it may not. So maybe I should do all these questions today. So yes. Anyway, yeah, so yes, do it now. But yes, okay, not just a joke answer, but when is the perfect time is when you actually can, practically speaking, do it. Don't shoot for some ideal time, don't make some goal that you can never keep. So if you've got a really busy job and you have to get out, very early in the morning, don't make your meditation time right after you wake up and in the 20 minutes you have to get ready for work. That's like not a good time to do it. Do it when you actually can have some space and time and when you're not totally exhausted. So at the end of the day, you're totally exhausted and you actually think you have a better shot of getting it in if you wake up a little bit earlier and do it, then do the one that's most practical for you, like that could actually really happen in your life. Do it then, and do it consistently. That's the important thing. If you do a little bit, but you do it consistently, it's better than doing like this, fabulous 9-day retreat and the rest of the year you never meditate, or you do it like, on the weekend you sit for an hour and then but the rest of the week you never sit at all. It's better to do like maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes every day, I think, because then you build up a sort of momentum and a regularity and a habit and a love of meditation. And is it good to do meditation just after lunch? Boy, I saw some brave souls in here after lunch who were sitting, and I was like, wow, sadhu to you. Because me, after lunch, I'm like hitting the walking path. That is like more practical for me, because the carbs, man, the carbs. They have a way of getting you the snoozies. So, and also the Buddha said one of the benefits of meditation, walking meditation, is it helps with your digestion. So it makes a lot of sense too. So if you can, don't let me impede you. Please sit after the meal if it works for you. But if you find that when you sit after lunch and you just get dull and you get sleepy and you just feel really uncomfortable because you have all this yummy Sri Lankan food, all these beautiful people brought today, sitting in there and these papadums are going snap, crackle, pop inside your stomach, then don't sit after lunch. So it's really what works for you. For me, it works to do a good hour of walking meditation after lunch, and that kind of keeps you awake and keeps you moving, keeps your digestion going. So that works for me. See what works for you. Okay. What is love for you? Another of these, I love these deep questions. You remember Saturday Night Live? It's an American show where, they had this segment on it where it's called Deep Thoughts by Jack Handey. They would be the most like mundane thoughts, but just because they were written in cursive writing and they would come up with this tagline called Deep Thoughts by Jack Handey, they would sound more deep. But this is genuinely deep. What is love for me? What does love mean for me? Hey, it's that whole tagline we've been calling, this whole open your heart business, this whole open and receptive awareness to whatever arises. That's love in action. It's not a sentimental love. It's not even a personal love. It's a bigger love. It's a love, like that hippie saying, love the one you're with. Love what you're with. Love the experience you're with. Not in this gooey, let's stare at each other kind of way, but not feeling any animosity or resistance to your experiencing. Meeting it with this openness, this sense of love, you could say. This sense of warmth, the sense of kindness, the sense of it's okay that you're here. Yeah, it's a bit, honestly speaking, unpleasant, but I love you anyway. That's a really bigger, broader meaning of love. And it sounds a bit abstract. And you can maybe feel like it's a bit intellectualizing it, but that's actually the attitude of mind that comes with letting go, is a sense of unconditional love and acceptance of what you're experiencing this moment, whether it's a person or yourself, your own thoughts, the bullies in your mind, that sense of love and acceptance. I meant to talk about the teddy bears way earlier on so you could actually use them, but then I kept forgetting. There you go. But yeah, this is perfect time to bring up the teddy bears. There's still a little time. That's Ajahn Brahm's trick that he learned teaching his disciples, that when you have this soft, cuddly, cute little teddy bear like this guy, you have him on your lap, it naturally brings up that feeling of, you just kind of feel and you your mind softens and you kind of have more of that, You know, it's not this like, oh yes, the good person feels love and openness towards whatever arises, and I shall try to be the good person. No, it's not like that. It's not idealistic. It's actually felt. You know, I mean, who can hate a teddy bear? You know, well, I guess some people can, but you know, most people, you know, it's kind of hard. They're just really cute. They're just, you know, they're soft and they're cuddly, and I mean, they don't talk to you, so they can never offend you, you know, so they're great. So it kind of brings up that feeling. And so that's what love is. It's that feeling you get when you have a teddy bear in your lap. And sort of extending that not just to the teddy bear, but anything you meet in your experience. So yeah, you can try if you have any more meditation sittings that you want to do, to try sit with one. They're all like up for grabs. You know, you're welcome to borrow them while you're here and just use whichever one you like. And yeah, try meditating with a teddy bear in your lap or answering questions with it. Maybe, yeah, see what happens when I answer questions with a teddy bear in my lap. Will I suddenly become softer and warmer and less snarky? Anyway, is it better to sit for meditation, or can you lay down? Well, it depends. It depends on, I guess, what happens to you when you lie down. For some people, they can lie down and remain very wakeful. And sometimes it's actually more relaxed than when they're sitting. Like maybe when they're sitting, they have a lot of knee pain. Or, yeah, I sprained my ankle a few years back and I couldn't sit cross-legged. And when it was a fresh injury and you couldn't even sit on a chair because it would cause the swelling to increase, then I had to lie down to meditate. And yeah, it's a bit harder sometimes because, you know, what do you normally do when you lie down? You know, your brain is programmed, nap time, sleep time, la-di-da. And then you're like, oh, I'm just going to lay down to, you know, ease my foot pain or my back pain for a little while. I'm going to meditate. And then you're like with your breath for like, you know, I don't know how many breaths. And suddenly you're like, oh, you're in dreamland. So it's kind of risky. It's kind of risky, but it can be done. I mean, like if you have there are times when you feel you have a lot of energy in your mind, a lot of wakefulness, a lot of mindfulness. And then when you lie down, you really can stay with the breath without going off into snooze land. And you can, and sometimes it's more like you can meditate for longer, because maybe if you were sitting, you might have gotten uncomfortable after an hour or something, but when you're lying down and you're wakeful, that you can actually sustain that position for longer, then sometimes it is better than sitting. So like with any of these questions, it just depends what happens to you and what works for you. And the answer is not always the same. It depends on the condition of your body and your mind. So learning to be sensitive to what your body needs, what your mind needs, and what is going to be conducive to alertness in the mind, wakefulness in the mind. It doesn't depend on the position per se, because all these are legitimate positions that you can meditating, sitting, standing, you know, walking, and laying down. So yeah, see what happens. But if you do find it tends to lead you to sleeping, you can try like either having a different place to meditate. And like, let's say your bed is for like sleeping, lying down, and you have like maybe like a yoga mat or some kind of other kind of mattress that you can put in your room, and that's for meditation. And when you lie down on that, that's like you're programming your brain that, okay, it's meditation time and not sleep time. But, you know, you can do what you can do if you don't have limited space, and you can try it on the bed and you just have different positions. And like maybe when you're lying on your side, that's sleeping. When you're lying on your back, that's meditation. And that's how you can train your mind to know the difference. So you can experiment that, see what happens. And if you just keep falling asleep, then just sit. You know, that's what W.C. Fields said. You can try again, and then give up. There's no point being a damn fool about it. So, see. Oh, I like this question too. These are great. People keep doing this. Is it because they forget to write, or I don't know? Anyway, that was easy. And, oh, wow, another one. Deep Thoughts by Jack Handy. What happiness means to you? Oh boy, there's like levels of happiness, but the night is growing long. So the succinct answer is the highest happiness is complete absence of suffering. Is that tautological? That'll completely not help you at all. But actually that is the most profound explanation of what nibbana is. It's like it's a total absence of suffering. So that's what happiness is when there's absolutely no suffering. So happiness isn't like balloons and like, parades. The deepest happiness is like just sublime peace and stillness and the absence of any kind of wanting, any kind of craving. So that's really true happiness, is the absence of wanting. So that's what it means to me. Hope I can experience it one day. Okay. How does one not take things so personally? I appear to have a natural defense towards simple questions that are asked of me at times, particularly from people who are close to me. Yeah, it's those people who are close to you. They really get to you, man. That's just normal. But how do we not take things so personally? It's not something you can actually learn to do. It comes from when you actually see, that the self isn't really there. And that's like, totally abstruse. But I guess what I mean is that, when the more you practice the path, the more there is a letting go of control, that's all kind of, it's like eroding the sense of self bit by bit over time. And the more the people who you can see who are really like chill with it and don't get offended, never take things personally, whatever, those are the people who really understand that there's no self in there. Because you can only get offended or take things personally when there's a self in there. And as long as the self exists, then it's always going to be protecting itself. And that's why you have defense mechanisms. So, but how can we move towards it? Because this is all very idealistic. But how can we take steps towards it? It's just kind of, like Galileo, right? Was he the one who thought the sun was in the middle of the universe, or was it the other way around? Anyway, like this idea that you are in the middle of the universe, that's the shift we need to take, is like to realize, it's not that the universe revolves around capital M-E, moi. It feels like that. It really feels like that. But the more we can see a bigger picture. So anytime that someone says something to you or asks you a question, and you take offense and you have some sort of defensive answer, you ask yourself, how does the situation look from their perspective? Like if someone says, this happens all the time in the monastery. Like miscommunication is like rife when you have people living together. But sometimes you just said something like innocuously. You just meant like, did you put this file into that folder? You just want to know whether the file is in that folder. But then someone feels like, why? Is it not supposed to be in the folder? Did you say that I put in the wrong folder? And it's like, you totally didn't, you were just asking an informational question. But if someone already has some sort of sense of insecurity inside them, they will perceive it that way. And so it's unavoidable. So I guess, that's a sign. Like it's a sign if we're easily defensive. It means that there's some self-doubt in there, that we don't feel secure about something in ourselves. And so it gets triggered. And then we take things, as if it's some kind of personal affront when people say things to us. And so really the solution is to just develop more happiness in yourself, more contentment with who you are. And that comes with seeing yourself clearly. And this whole thing I kept on talking about this morning about like allowing yourself to feel whatever you feel, and just realize that you're a human being, and like we are not perfect. No one is perfect. What is perfect anyway? What's so great about perfect anyway? But this idea that humans, we have the whole range of experience, the whole range of emotions. It's what makes us human. And there's nothing wrong with that. And the more we can clearly see ourselves and accept our humanity, the less we will take things personally and be offended, because you see, it's not personal. Any thought or emotion that we ever have has been had by some human sometime, probably the guy next to you yesterday or today or whatever, Like, if you see how like Hollywood keeps on making remakes of like Shakespeare or like Jane Austen novels or something, they keep on making these like modern takes on it. It's because these things are still relevant. Human beings keep experiencing the same emotions and the same conflicts and the same dramas, that century or this century or next century, and you're just another one of them. So whatever gaffe you made or whatever like angry thought you had or that really actually mean thing you said, which you did do out of meanness, you're not the first and you won't be the last. And this is just normal for human beings. And so to accept that fact and see yourself clearly and let yourself be who you are, flawed as it may be, then that frees you. That frees you. Frees you from whoever might say about you, Who cares what they think? Who even cares what you think about yourself, It's like seeing yourself clearly and letting yourself be human. And knowing that you are understanding. I love this phrase. I know some people here did the Bhante Dhammajiva retreat a few years back, but this is one golden phrase I got from that retreat was, we are here to not just understand our mind, my mind. What we're trying to do here is to understand the human mind. So that depersonalizes things. When what you experience in your own mind is not something like uniquely yours and uniquely, your mistake, but it's actually the human condition. It's the human mind. Everybody experiences these things from one time or another because of one reason or another. And that's like, what's wrong with being human? That's all we could ever be, So that can also help things, help you not take things so personally. So that applies for praise too, not to take praise so personally either. Okay. Hi, I was dozing off and I tried to meditate sometimes. What shall I do? Am I too relaxed? Well, there's never such a thing as too relaxed. Relax is a good thing. You can't have enough of that. So it just happens sometimes, for various reasons. Sometimes you ate too much. Sometimes you're tired. Sometimes your body needs it. But sometimes it's because you're bored, and sometimes it's because your mind is only used to being active and thinking, and then when it slows down the thinking, it's like it goes on a fritz. It doesn't know what to do, so it like just shuts down. That's like default, and it falls asleep. So gosh, I could just keep saying the same thing like a broken record. You just meet it with open and receptive awareness. But it's kind of hard to be like aware when you're sleepy, because that means you're not aware. But there's like this little gray area where you aren't too far gone into like snoozeville, that you can kind of bring awareness to that sleepy feeling and just know, okay, that's what sleepiness feels like. And like, okay, that's what it feels like. I'm learning about sleepiness, great, and just be able to bring awareness to that and bring openness to that. And often that allows the sleepiness to just run its course quicker. And then it just suddenly your mind becomes clear. Has that ever happened to you when you're sitting and at first you're like really dozy and you're like, oh, sleepy. And then suddenly your mind flips and it's like, hey, I'm bright, I'm clear. And it ran its course. And that's what happens. Like sleepiness is like everything. It's impermanent and conditioned. And so when the conditions are finished, then the sleepiness goes. But I guess what can prolong it is when you're secretly like having a tug of war with it. You secretly don't want this sleepiness. And so, when you add negativity to it, it actually makes you more tired, because negativity tires your mind, and then that makes you even more sleepy. And then, okay, then it's a bit, then whether you're lying down or sitting up, you're going to doze off. So just try not to be negative about it. So that's why relaxing is good. And sometimes relaxing does bring it on, but like I said, it can be temporary. So if you're relaxing to the point where you fall asleep, but then you just maintain that set of, not completely asleep where you're just gone, but you're just dozing in and out. Just maintain that sense of relaxation with the sleepiness, and then it won't last so long. And then you will, go back to being bright, and you will be bright in a way that's calm and not restless. Ooh, finalmente, the last one. with so much choice, people can spend years shopping at the spiritual supermarket. Not only can you get extra lettuce and tomatoes, yes, what is it, special sauce, lettuce, cheese. Anyway, with that, but you can practically cobble together whatever you want. You could even download an app and take away all the guesswork. What does this app do? Does it take you to enlightenment? Like, I want this app. I'll get a smartphone just to get this app. But boy, what can these things do nowadays? What made you decide on the path of Buddhism? And more importantly, what was the turning point when you said, this is for me, I want to go forth and become a nun? Gosh, I wish I could do justice to this, but it's like 9:15 and I see people are like dozing, like not dozing, but they're like yawning and like some people are leaving. So I'm sorry if I am just gonna have to answer this briefly, but I'll try to hit all the points. Yeah. You know, I don't agree with you that when people do a lot of shopping in the spiritual supermarket and they cobble together stuff and they download an app, that takes away all the guesswork. It doesn't. It causes more guesswork because you're like confused by like what this path says and that path says and doesn't match and can it combine and what and yeah, it's kind of, you got to do some shopping, like you got to do like, you know, like they say your due diligence if you actually don't have a clear inclination to any particular religion and you want to like learn about enough of them so you can make a, you know, reasonable choice. You kind of do have to do a bit of market research, as they say, or, you know, but you can't spend too much time shopping around because then you never, I think I was telling this to somebody in one of the interviews, but because you never get deep or grounded in any one religion or tradition. And then it's all just a bit superficial, all your meanderings and tryings on to different things. And then when you cobble stuff together without any coherent base in one, some kind of a firm understanding or some coherent understanding of one base, doesn't mean it has to be Buddhism, doesn't mean it has to be Theravada Buddhism, but you pick for you one that makes most sense to you, and you ground yourself in that for like a reasonable amount of time. Give yourself some years, you know, a few years really learning about a particular one and see if it makes sense to you. Because sometimes a lot of these variations, they're just different ways of expressing the same thing. So you might as well just learn that coherent message from one, you know. And you can have a bit of dabbling, a bit of supplementary. Like I'm informed by some Tibetan practices, and I really like Pema Chodron, this like American nun who's from the Tibetan tradition, and I find her practice very useful. All this like breathing into the heart business, I totally like, you know, got from Pema Chodron. So I also use some of this stuff that is outside Theravada, but I have some grounding in Theravada Buddhism because I spent many years, you know, in this tradition. And so I feel I am able to sort of be able to use these outside ones in a way that still kind of integrates in a coherent fashion with some base that has some holistic logic to it. So then that's important. But what made me decide that the path of Buddhism, and more importantly, what was when you said this is for me, you know, I didn't really decide. That's the thing. Like that sounds like kind of a smart-ass answer, but it's true. The decision makes itself when you're ready. Like when you're ready and you feel like there's nothing else I want to do. There's nothing else I'm interested in. I don't want to be a journalist no more. I don't want to be a teacher. I don't want to be an academic. I don't want to be a professor. None of these things fulfills me in the way that Buddhist practice or Dhamma practice does. I want to do Dhamma practice full time. I want to study this full time. I want to be able to really get my teeth into it, get my soul into it, so to speak, soul. But, you know, really just be immersed in it. And then, you know, that's when you know that this is for me. And yeah, I guess also it depends on what your karmic causes are from your previous lives. Like, why is it that I was living in a Catholic country, you know, the Philippines, and was never really, I mean, it's not that I like Christmas. That was like, I really felt that was, not just for the presents, but there was a genuine sense of like, spirit of generosity and joy that came with the season, and I have to confess, even nowadays when I walk down from my kuti to like the Dhammasara main complex and you see these open skies, there's something in me that says, Ave Maria, like, I don't know where that comes from, but yeah, but I was never really interested to explore Catholicism or Christianity more deeply. Not because I had any sort of antipathy towards it, but somehow it didn't draw me. But there was something about me that was curious about Buddhism, that I independently, wrote a paper about Buddhism when you could choose your own topic or something in school, because something in me was like intrigued, like fascinated, wanted to learn more about it. So these things are already kind of inbuilt sometimes when you're born into this life. But yeah, to have a more sort of intelligible answer that you can actually see the picture. Turning points, okay, one major turning point was like going to Harvard and being like, wow, okay, all this success, worldly success that people say, all this academic success, don't bring you real happiness, it just causes you more hoops and hurdles. Like somebody said in the interview today, you just keep having the next level, you got to make it to the next level. Great, you get into Harvard for undergrad, now you have to get into Harvard for law school or medical school or something, and then afterwards you have to get some like really like, prestigious like doctor job or lawyer job or something, and it's like, oh, it's endless. And so I figured out pretty early on that, hey, I sense a trap. I smell a rat, and I'm like, I worked so hard to get into this place, and now I have to keep working harder to keep proving myself to all you people based on your values? It's like, why? Why do I have to do this? So that's when I was like, hey, what's most important in life is ending suffering, man. Learning how to end suffering and be happy, like truly happy. That is the most important thing. So I realized that when I was in my second year of university. But how to do that? I don't know how to do that. It's all a very nice highfalutin idea, but like, how do you actually do that? And there's no nuns walking around. You don't see any. Well, actually, there was one Korean nun. I even remember her, who was at Harvard when I was at Harvard, and I met her later, years later, at a conference. And when she said, "Oh yes, I was doing my PhD at Harvard those years," I'm like, "You were the Korean nun I saw in the Cabot Science Library. That was you." Yeah, it was like so cool to actually like meet her later in life, and she's still a nun, and I became a nun, and like wow. But I didn't at that time, she was just this one tiny data point. I think I saw her maybe like once or something, or maybe I didn't see her, maybe someone else told me about it. I can't quite remember, but it wasn't clear in my mind that this is an option for me, and so I didn't really know yet what to do. But next turning point is when I went back to Thailand. My mother became very ill very quickly, bedridden, can't move, paralyzed, like very shocking, gonna die, don't know when. And that's when it was like, whoa. Like I said, you don't know how much later you're gonna have. And I don't know how much later I'm gonna have. And what is the most important thing I wanna do in my life, I better start doing it. And that's when I started to think about ordaining. But when I was able to really go forth and you're really ripe, you're really ready, it's not just an ideal or an idea in your mind, it's when you've actually the causes come together. So when I tried coming here to stay as a layperson, I realized, hey, I like it. This is actually great. And, I actually feel I'm suited for monastic life, Then that's when I really knew that, okay, this is the path for me, and I am going to just go for it. And then the causes just, things just came into place. And I, went to this monastery in Thailand. And then suddenly, they offered me samanera ordination. There's a program going on. And then I took it and then I became a novice. And then suddenly, randomly in Australia, this bhikkhuti ordination possibility came. I didn't ask for it. I didn't engineer it, but it happened. And it was like, oh, okay, great. Oh, go for it. Because who knows when the universe is going to shine on you and rain on you again. So grab it when you can. And so that's how it became. So it's not really a decision. All these causes come together and it happens. But you have to know when you feel ready. And that's when you can go wholeheartedly into it. And then that's how it can happen. So thank you for your patience, everybody. It's later than we said it would be. But I did all the questions because if tomorrow doesn't come, I have done my duties. The questions are done. And the answers may make sense or not, but they're done. And so anyway, that was fun for me. I hope it was fun for you. So off we go. Whoever has the chutzpah and the energy can meditate longer. And whoever wants to do lying down meditation, you can try. And whoever wants to just be honest, just go to bed, you can also do that. So all options are possible. So if I untangle myself from the microphone.